Good afternoon.
It is.
Just what I'm always curious about is that whole thing about right livelihood or dharma. I could probably do almost anything if I just knew what it was. I never seem to fully get the level of satisfaction that's probably available in any of the different occupations that I've had, and I've had many. So I always wonder what it is I'm supposed to be doing. And I know that some of what you've spoken about today has addressed that. But it's like when you talk about the GPS system, and it takes you there. But what if you don't know where you want to go?
Well, we have good news for you. And that is that even before your birth, you set a course. And every day since, you've been adding to it. And this is the thing we so much want you to hear, because as humans, you often think that what my work is to stand here and look around and decide now what I want. So there are courses on goal setting. In fact, even when we talked about the science of deliberate creation, it's sort of the way many people addressed creating their own experience. It was like, so here I am, I need to create my own experience, and I need to do it now. And so we began explaining that the creative process is 3 steps. The first step is ask. The second step is source answers. And the third step is you must let yourself be a match to what you've asked for, or let yourself be a match to the answer. So when you look at it that way, what that means is all through every day of life, just through knowing what you don't want, you know what you do want, you've been adding to that vision. For example, when someone is rude to you, you want people to be nicer. When you're rude to someone, you want to be nicer. When you feel insecure, you want to be secure. When you don't have enough of something you want more of it. When you're feeling a little confused, you want clarity. When you feel like your physical body is not up to its stamina that you want more stamina. So all day, every day, in ways that we can't even find enough words to describe, you've been doing that asking. And that asking has been being answered. So that part of the analogy, and all analogies suck, remember, that part of that analogy is already very well established. You've been setting your destination incrementally, and you are amending it constantly. So much so that very often after the fact, you can see that. In other words, as Jerry and Esther are so happy evolving in this work, they can see that every single thing that either one of them did every day of their life prior to that was leading up to this. And they can feel that this is still in the process of expanding too. So when you get on to that signal, when you hear that beam and you begin moving in the direction of this thing that's been culminating for you, you don't have that question, and that's what you're reaching for. Because until you get on that track, and it's not really a straight and narrow path at all, until you catch hold of that signal and start moving in the direction of it, you often feel unfulfilled. And when you catch hold of that signal, even though it can take you through many different processes and up and down many different avenues, you can feel the rightness of the path, so to speak. You see, we would not say ever about you or about Esther or about anybody that anything that you ever lived was off your path, because everything that you have lived has created the path, has created the desire. So now, with a little extra emphasis on chilling and flowing and letting go of the oars, that path shows up bright and vivid. So, for example, give us some details, if you will, of some of the things that you've lived, and let us point out to you what's in vibrational escrow that we are knowing and feeling and calling you toward.
When you say some of the things I've lived, you mean my occupations?
Because that is the basis of this question, yes. What was your first employment that you recall?
The first job I ever had was a summer job picking tomatoes for a farmer in East Texas.
And how did you like that?
I didn't like that very much. It was very hard work, and I was the only white person who worked there, and they all threw tomatoes at me every day.
So, out of that experience, what you contributed to vibrational escrow was you wanted employment that utilized a larger part of your being. That while you enjoy what is physical, you also really enjoy applying your mind. And the repetition of that experience was not so satisfying. You wanted something that you could apply more of yourself in an ongoing, expanding way. From that experience, while you appreciated them and the diligence and willingness that you saw there, and respected that within them, and set that forth into your vibrational escrow as something that you saw as honorable, you also know, and this is the biggest thing that was born within you in that very first job, you made a very powerful statement of desire vibrationally that said, I am going to leverage myself in a way that dollars flow to me more abundantly with much less effort than is being applied here. That was the most powerful thing that came from that. Then what was your next work?
When I was in high school, I worked at a clothing store and sold clothes and men's shoes, clothes.
And what did that feel like to you?
It felt pretty good at the time because it was a very cool job to have in the middle 60s, but I wasn't too enamored with the idea of trying to sell people stuff that I didn't want to wear myself. So from that, what you put into vibrational escrow was an understanding that there are all kinds of people who want all kinds of different things, and that the diversity is what makes the world go round. You also developed a sense of commerce and a sense of finding a product or having products that people want to come and buy and presenting them in a way that is beneficial to them. The biggest thing that it feels to us that you derived from that experience was a recognition that it's a big world and lots of things make the world go round, and that you were going to be more particular about the way you applied yourself if you had anything to say about it. Yes.
Then what?
Then after that, in the early 70s, I was involved in natural food business. Owned a whole grain bakery and natural food stores.
In those earlier employments that you had, you also developed a strong sense of wanting to be self-employed, of wanting to be in a place where you could call the shots and you could make the decisions, and that you could sell something that was meaningful to you, and that you thought would be of value to others. Yes?
That's true.
Can you identify what part of your life caused that desire to be there? In other words, it was something that you did on purpose. You didn't just stumble into it.
Oh, I believed in it.
You believed in it and wanted to do it because?
It just seemed like the right thing to do.
And so are you following our train of thought here? It seemed like the right thing to do because what did it answer? It answered the idea of you getting to choose. It answered the idea of you getting to set the agenda, of you getting to decide what you sell, of you getting to be the persuader. It also gave you an opportunity to understand that it is a big world, it is a diverse world, and different people want different things. Now, you launched a stronger rocket of desire to find something that was appealing to a larger segment of the population. Then what did you do next?
I went into the real estate business. Property management and development, commercial development.
Are you getting the sense of what we're talking about? How everything that you live and every bit of life that you live contributes to this vibrational escrow. So as you follow the theme of your own story, are you beginning to see how many very good vibrational conclusions you came to as a result of all of those things that you were living? You don't want to work hard. You don't want your action to be the reason that things come to you. You don't want to work by somebody else's timetable and by somebody else's standards. You don't want to sell something that you don't believe in. You want to find something that is mutually beneficial, both for the seller and for the buyer. In other words, can you feel how your path has been unfolding?
Yes, and I like the affirmation as you're giving it to me for that. That's putting all of that in a concise and clear context for me. I guess my struggle with it all is that it never seemed very financially rewarding. It never seemed very easy. It never seemed that people really wanted what I had. It always seemed to be a lot of struggle and effort involved in all of these occupations.
So now, looking back and acknowledging that, and maybe it felt that way as it was unfolding, and maybe it feels that way now. So now what's that synthesizing of life putting into vibrational escrow? In other words, I'm wanting greater ease. I'm wanting to understand how all of this works. I'm wanting to understand the power of attraction. So now you have found the real estate that you know that many people want, that is sort of open-ended in terms of where you can go with it. So what now?
Well, we had that big real estate crash in the middle 80s. Then I became a lobbyist.
Tell us more.
I enjoyed that for a while because I had a lot of success, and I always represented projects that were win-win, where the community won, the developer won. In other words, the elected everybody felt like they got a win. So that went well for a while, and then kind of the political landscape changed, and that game didn't seem like a good game to play anymore. And then I started a hot air balloon company.
Well, now, and is that where you are now, or is that?
Oh no,
did that go the way of the wind?
That went the way of the wind.
All right, so now we want to give you a fuller version of your experience. So you began with an attitude of working hard and being willing to, only to understand that you weren't a really good worker in comparison with some others, so much so that they threw tomatoes at you.
That's right.
And from that came a very strong desire to work indoors where it's cool and where it was easier and where it just felt better to your physical body. And from that came a strong desire to be self-employed and to be able to call some of your own shots. And from that came ideas for some businesses that your energy wasn't completely lined up with because you did not know about that then. So you just kept adding more to your vibrational escrow. And then you saw enough about life to realize that there were a lot of people who had a lot of money, and you wanted to get in on the game of moving the money into places where it could be beneficial. And then you felt the corruption and all of that, and the discord and all of that, and the really, really hard work. In other words, it was even more hard work to make something happen in that arena and get less done than it was out there in the tomato patch earlier on. And so then from that, you went to wanting something more whimsical, something that was more freeing, something that just felt better. In other words, can you feel how everything that you've lived has contributed a big piece? You see, the reason that you're not following this story with the enthusiasm that we are is because we can see the results that stand now in vibrational escrow. In other words, we see vividly the expanded you as a result of everything that you've lived. And we know that if you could get a full view of the expanded you that exists as a result of everything that you've lived, you would not want to undo one piece of any of it because of the contribution it has made to who you are. And everything that we are hearing from you sounds to us like your request of some information about how you can close that gap and be that person that you've become. You're not putting it into those words because you've not seen it in that way. But that literally is the pulling that you feel inside. Did we get there for you?
Yes.